Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome yet again to another inspiring edition of Inspirational Africans. Over the weeks, we've been bringing you many amazing stories that inspire you. Today, we have another distinguished guest who we are very privileged to host. Let us see who our guest is, whose story will wow you and indeed inspire you.
In this edition of Inspirational Africans, we bring you the inspiring story of Dr. Oheneba Boachie Adjei. Dr. Oheneba Boachie Adjei is a Ghanaian specialist in kyphosis, scoliosis, spine reconstruction, and other spine-related diseases. He has for many years worked very hard to survive his childhood vision and desire of becoming a medical doctor and save lives of people, which has in today motivated his philanthropic and patriotic works. After obtaining his medical degrees in the USA, he also worked as assistant professor of orthopedic surgery at the University of Minnesota in 1987 to 1990. Clinical assistant professor, University of Southern California from 1990 to 1994, and assistant clinical professor, University of California, College of Medicine, Irvine in 1993 to 1994. His clinical appointments included the position of Associate Medical Director. In 1998, Dr. Boachie Adjei founded FOCUS, Foundation of Orthopedic and Complex Spine, as a way to provide orthopedic care which includes treatment of the bones, joints, ligaments, tendons, and muscles to the people of Ghana. For 8 years, Dr. Boachie Adjei provided this care by leading teams of volunteers from around the world 4 times per year to Ghana. During this time, Dr. Boachie Adjei also traveled to other parts of the world to treat adult pediatric patients and became a world-renowned specialist in complex spine deformities. Dr. Boachie Adjei and other donors have raised more than $20 million for FOCUS. He and those assisting him have completed more than 1,900 complex spine and joint surgeries, and they have treated more than 40,000 patients. FOCUS Orthopedic Hospital is also an important teaching facility for the education of local surgeons and caregivers. Dr. Boachie Adjei's goal is to identify orthopedic neurosurgeons interested in pursuing the same specialty that he has and to train them. His efforts have inspired others to raise funds and volunteer towards his goal. Medical professionals have volunteered for many years with FOCUS, and some have even moved to Ghana. As the founder and president of FOCUS, Foundation of Orthopedic and Complex Spine, he has helped provide orthopedic medical care to underserved populations in West Africa and other third world nations. In 2004, Dr. Boachie Adjei received the Humanitarian Award from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. He was also elected president of the Scoliosis Research Society for the 2008 and 2009 year, and was featured in the Discovery Channel documentary Surgery Saved My Life. He also won the Ahmadiyya Peace Prize in 2012. Please stay tuned and be inspired.
Viewers, so we have him, Professor Emeritus Oheneba Boachie Adjei. Prof, welcome to Inspirational Africans.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us. And Prof, our viewers just heard your story and what you do, very, very inspiring. I'm sure they were hearing some terms and I'd like you to explain to us. So you are a spine reconstruction expert as well as an expert in kyphosis and scoliosis. For those of us who are ordinary people who might not be in tune with this legal jargon, can you just explain to us in a normal language what exactly you do?
Well, honestly, I was just like them until I got to the United States. Okay. That I was in the clinic once, and the doctor says scoliosis. I says, "What is it?" And that was the first time I had heard the term. It's not a term that is used commonly in our medical environment here. It's basically achacha. It's scoliosis. Kyphosis is a curvature of the back, which is like a humpback. Yeah, and it can be from genetic causes, the scoliosis, and the kyphosis can be from infections like tuberculosis. Okay. And tuberculosis can affect the spine, destroy the vertebra, and cause the spine to collapse. Then you see the hump on your back. If you're lucky and not get paralyzed, you may live with a hump. Okay. And the scoliosis can also come from neuromuscular conditions like poliomyelitis or cerebral palsy. Or injury to the spinal cord. whereby you lose control of your body movements and the muscle function, and then your spine just collapses under you.
So when people come to you with these problems, with these spinal problems, what exactly do you do?
Well, there are several methods of managing them, and it depends on when they come to see us, their age, and the level of the magnitude of the deformity. The scoliosis usually is worse when it's early in life, like the first 3 or 5 years of life. That's the infantile type. Those are patients who, if they are not treated, will probably die early. They will probably get to 25% of their normal lifespan. If you develop scoliosis as a teenager, you may have a normal lifespan, but you have a miserable life, pain and difficulty breathing and all the other things that come with it. So unfortunately, when they come to us, it's too late, that they cannot be treated with a brace. You can't treat scoliosis or spine deformity with medication or injection, because it's a mechanical derangement. The spine has collapsed and it has twisted and it has changed its shape, and then it affects its function. So most of these you have to do surgery, and it's a surgical reconstruction, more like human engineering. You have to reconstruct the spine, straighten it up as much as you can safely, because in the process you can paralyze the patient. And we have methods of avoiding that with special electrophysiological monitoring. So the surgery is very involved, very intense, and it can be very expensive.
So it's a very specialized area.
Yes, it is. I think right now I'm the only spine deformity surgeon in the whole country, and maybe one of a few in West Africa.
But even globally, you are not many, as it were.
Well, I belong to the Scoliosis Research Society, which is an international body of spine deformity surgeons, which I was the president of 2009. And it has about 1,500 members all over the world. So you're right, there's not many of us that do spine deformity. There are neurosurgeons and orthopedic surgeons who do spine surgery, but really going into the specialty of spine deformity is very, very intense, and you need a lot of years of experience to really consider yourself an expert in spine deformity reconstruction.
Let's zoom back to when you were a young man, or a child actually, growing up, I believe, on the streets of Kumasi. Did you ever envision that at a point in time you'd be in such a delicate field as working with people's spines? Did you have any medical ambitions when you were young?
Well, actually, I wanted to become a doctor at the age of 6.
Okay.
But I didn't know this was what I was going to get myself into. I knew I wanted to become a doctor based on the experience that I had when I was young and sick, and I didn't have, there were not many medical doctors in those days. And my parents, I grew up with my mother and my grandmother. And they took me to a village for care, and with the herbal medicine and all the other stuff. But it wasn't helping until we came back to Kumasi, and Dr. Mensah, basically was the doctor pediatrician who had just trained in UK and had come back to Kumasi to set up this Subin Valley Hospital. So that's where I was cared for, and he became my first role model. And growing up, I always wanted to be like him.
So you developed the desire to be a doctor because this doctor helped you
by that. How he cured me, because I actually was on the verge of death.
Okay.
It was pretty dire situation. Okay. So I really admired him, and I saw other children who came for care that he managed to get their lives back. So I wanted to become a doctor then. Somewhere along the line, I thought maybe I was interested in engineering. It was pretty hip when going to high school, and people becoming mechanical and civil engineers and working with their hands. And I love to work with my hands.
Did you go to high school in Ghana here?
Yes, I did. Okay. I attended Opokuwari Secondary School in Kumasi.
So I attended Tiamide.
I'm an Owarin.
Okay, I'm a Phobian for that matter.
Is that right?
Okay. So you studied science in secondary school, as we called it back then.
That is correct.
Yes.
I was a science major.
Okay.
But I didn't attend the university in Ghana. I went to the U.S. Right after high school to attend the Brooklyn College, City University of New York, and then pursued my medical degree at Columbia University, College of Physicians and Surgeons.
Tell us your transition between secondary school and going to the state for your university education. Is something that, at what point did you decide that you wanted to go further your education abroad, and how did you get that?
Right. So when I realized that I wanted to pursue medicine, I wanted to get the best training and education, and also to become a specialist. And in those days, the number of students who attended the medical school in Ghana were not many. Okay. I was very competitive, and I'm sure that I could have made it if I really had set my mind on attending the medical school in Ghana. But I wanted to go abroad. For some reason, I just wanted to go abroad and study and pursue postgraduate training. So I managed to get to the United States with the help of a family member. Okay. And then I went there, worked for a couple of years before I even started college.
Okay, so you didn't apply directly from high school in Ghana. You actually went, okay.
Yes, I went there, worked for a while, and then applied into the colleges, got into the City University of New York, and then from there to Columbia University, College of Physicians and Surgeons.
I know that education in the States is really expensive. How did you manage to go through all that?
Well, I did so with grants and loans and work study. Okay. So I never stopped working. I worked throughout my college years and throughout my medical school years, because even though you get a scholarship and a grant, it was never 100%.
Absolutely.
You either had to get a little bit of a loan and then supplement that with work study. Okay. So I would work after hours. I would tutor students, work in the carpentry shop sometimes, and then I work in the blood bank when I was in medical school. Okay. So I did get loans, grants, and worked.
So when you studied in general practice before you specialized?
So the order is that you go to college for 4 years. I did my college in 3 years. Okay. I was a little bit in a hurry.
Okay, how did you get to do it in 3 years?
Well, I just didn't sleep. Okay. I just worked day and night, and I took lots of courses. Okay. And I managed to finish the 4-year program in 3 years.
And that's a medical program.
That's the college, the university program. Because you have to have a college degree before you go to medical school.
But what did you study for your first degree?
I studied chemistry.
Chemistry, okay.
Yeah, so I was a chemistry major with African American Studies as a minor. Okay. I did that in 3 years, and then I attended Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons. That was a 4-year medical degree program. Okay. And then from there, I continued as a resident at St. Vincent's Hospital in New York for 2 years, and then orthopedic surgery for 3 years. Okay. And in between my residency in general surgery, so medical school, general surgery, orthopedic surgery. Okay. But between general surgery and orthopedic surgery, I took a year off because I had a family issue that we could talk about, and just to support my family, because I needed that time.
Your family back at home?
My family in the United States. Okay. By the end of college, I was married. Okay. We had a son. Okay. And in medical school, we had 2 children. Okay. When I was done with medical school, we had our 3rd son.
So you're schooling and working and still building a family life. Oh, wow.
All in one.
Okay.
Multitasking. So by the time I was done with medical school, we had 3 children, 3 boys. And our 3rd son was born very premature and almost didn't make it. So by the grace of God, when he recovered, my wife and him came home. I decided to take a year off so I can help at home. Okay. But I did not just staying at home. I still worked in an emergency department. Okay. And then I took a job at the Hospital for Special Surgery as a pathology fellow. Okay. That's actually where I got my interest in spine surgery. Okay. That year off, which I thought was a discontinuity of my education, was actually a blessing. Okay. So during that year, I was able to go home early. I didn't have to work long hours, so I can help her with the children. Okay. But I still had full-time job during the day, doing anatomy dissections and also as a pathology fellow. And it was during that year that I dissected about 100 spines from the autopsy. Wow. And I wrote a book, which is in that cabinet there, on spinal diseases. And so I knew a lot about spine.
It's the first time you opened up one. How was the feeling? Well, I don't know if well, what was your impression? Let me put it that way.
Well, I had worked with cadavers in medical school, so I was not new to that. But my objective was to do anatomic dissections and investigate the types of pathologies and diseases that affected the spine. Okay. So I could take out a whole spine in 2 minutes. Okay. And reconstruct the body so they could take it and embalm it.
Okay, so you take the spine out,
And I dissected it, I cleaned it. I came up with methods of cleaning, maceration, so you can look at bones, joints, ligaments, and then took about 5,000 photographs. I did
so you
histological
contributed knowledge,
dissertations.
new knowledge
Yes,
in terms of your research.
That was before MRI and discograms, and
all
so I
those.
already had a close-up view of what the spine looked like. So after my residency, so after the pathology fellowship, then I entered the clinical residency for orthopedic surgery. That's where you learn everything about the musculoskeletal system. You know, foot and ankle, pediatric orthopedics, sports medicine, joint replacement, traumatology, spine.
So essentially, you specialize in bones.
Everything. It's all bones. Bones, muscles, joints, and nerves.
I find it very interesting from your movement from Ghana to the United States, you working, going to school. I mean, everything looks as if it was a very fast process. What was motivating you? What was your drive? You know, did you have a point where you say, okay, when I get here, I'm done?
Well, as soon as I got to the U.S., I knew that was it. That I had to make it or break it. And either I had to swim or sink. And I was very serious about what I was there to achieve. And I had a drive that I can't get back. Everybody sees me now and says, you're not stopping. I had my eyes set on a price that I knew was reachable to be able to attain my goals and to be able to contribute to humanity and suffering and to be able to alleviate pain and hopefully eventually to be able to come back to my home country, which took me, of course, 40 years.
We'll come back to, I mean, of course, your return to Ghana and all that, but I want to understand, around this time in your life, going to school in the States, learning and working and building a family, were there some difficult challenges that you had to overcome?
There were plenty, but it didn't bother me. And sometimes I even overlooked it. Financial challenges, of course. I mean, but we live according to our means. I mean, the color code according to our size. We had humble beginnings, you know, and my wife and I, we had 2 sons then. We went to dollar movies. You know,
dollar movies were cheap movies.
Exactly, yeah. After everybody had seen it, they would go watch it. Movie hasn't changed, but at least. You know, we just lived humbly and basically did not aspire to anything heavy. You know,
I read somewhere that at a point in time you had just what, about $12 in your pocket when you
that's when I went to the U.S. I left here with a briefcase and $12.
What did you spend that $12 on?
On the
Starbucks?
No, the taxi. By the time I got home from the airport, I was broke already.
Oh wow!
So, but fortunately I went to live with some friends initially who hosted us and were able to support us. And now I got a job, 2 weeks later, and I was able to earn my own income and started saving towards college. And I never rushed through all of this. I mean, I got to the U.S. in February of 1972. I didn't start college until...
At what age do you get to the U.S.?
21.
21, okay.
And I didn't start university until a year and a half later. And my friends were going to school and they were asking me, why don't you go to college? Why don't you? So I said, I know what I'm doing. I got to pay my bills. I borrowed money from my plane fare. I have to send money back to my mother. I need to get my wife over here. So I'm taking my time. So there was no rush. But when I started college, I was able to catch up and do it in 3 instead of 4 because I was prepared.
So now let's zoom back. After your education, after you specialized, after you dissected all those cadavers and specialized in the spine, how did you start practice?
Well, so after your orthopedic training, then you can either become a general orthopedic surgeon or you can subspecialize. I wanted to specialize in spine surgery. So then you have to do an extra year of fellowship. And that I did at the Twin Cities Scoliosis Center, University of Minnesota, for 1 year. So that's where I actually got clinical training in spinal deformity surgery. So from there, after that, I was appointed assistant professor at the University of Minnesota with some, 4 of the gurus of spine deformity surgery, Bob Winter, David Bradford, Ogilvy, Moe. So I was on staff for 3 extra years after my fellowship. So I built up a practice in general spine surgery, but I was also doing general orthopedics because when you start out early, you just can't subspecialize, even if you have done a fellowship in a subspecialty. So at the end of the 3rd year, we wanted to move out into a warmer climate. Minnesota is very cold. I don't know if you've been there, but it's very cold. So we went to California, and there was an opportunity there to establish a spine center.
Okay.
So I was called to come in as an associate director of the Southern California Complex Spine and Scoliosis Center in Whittier, California. So that was 1990.
Okay.
So I went there in private practice, working with two other associates. And then I was also assistant professor at University of Southern California, running the spine deformity program at Rancho Los Amigos Hospital. So I did that for 4 years, but interestingly, when I left New York Hospital for Special Surgery to go do my fellowship, the understanding was that after the fellowship I would come back. But after the fellowship, and the consultants at the University of Minnesota, Bradford and Winter, offered me the assistant professor position. It was an opportunity that I couldn't refuse, because it was a way for me to build my experience for future practice, because I couldn't learn from anyone more than those guys. So I called back special surgery chief. I said, I think I'm going to stay in New York. He wasn't too happy. I can imagine. You know, but I had to look out for myself too. But I knew that one day I would go back there. So I stayed there for 3 years, then went to California for 3 years, and then they called me and said, now you ready to come? I said, okay, now I'm ready to come and take on the big boys. Because I think now I have had enough experience.
So you went back to you went to Minnesota, then came back to California.
So I started in New York, went to Minnesota, went to California, then came back to New York. And I came back to New York as the chief of the scoliosis service. Wow. So I figured if I had gone back right after my first...
That's when you came back as a chief?
44.
44, okay, great. So were you moving with your family?
94, right, 44. Well, I counted every move. By the time we gone back to New York, we had moved like 17 times.
Wow. How did your family react, your wife and your
kids?
Well,
my kids never went to the same school for more than 3 years. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I went back and counted that.
Daddy, well, just when we are making friends, it's like a diplomat.
Well, they were able to make friends and let go of friends. But interestingly, they kept old friends along the way. I mean, Kwajo's friends are the people that he was in high school with, same as Yao. But every 3 years, we were on the move somewhere. But once we came back to New York, we stayed from 94 to 2014. So that was. So now let's
come back to your reconnection back in Ghana. As you were, you know, growing up the ladder, developing yourself and getting, actualizing. At what point did you start thinking about coming back to Ghana to establish something, or has it always been at the back of your mind?
Well, always. I mean, I went to the U.S. to become an expert, to earn enough money that I could build something later on. So it was part of the plan that I would eventually come back. But I wanted to make sure that when I came back, that I was not overqualified, that I could sustain whatever practice I brought along, that it will help the community, that I can contribute to the delivery of health care and also build capacity. So all along I knew I wanted to come back. But in 1998, that's when I started to really plan towards the coming. And that is when I formed the Foundation of Orthopedics and Complex Spine, a non-profit organization which is registered in the state of New York, that allowed me to accept contributions from friends and colleagues and benefactors. Of course, started with my own seed money. And then started bringing volunteers back with me to Ghana to see patients and perform surgeries.
Where were you seeing them at?
So we started with the Trust Hospital. Dr. Fifi Ellis was a late Dr. Fifi Ellis, gentleman, physician, medical director of the Trust Hospital, which is part of the SNIT program, actually invited us. So we were seeing patients at the Trust Hospital. And then the year after seeing the patients and we realized that we could operate, I went back and communicated and gathered equipment and supplies, and then also recruited volunteers to come back with me. So we started doing surgeries at Kolebu in the summer of 1998.
When you got back, did you realize that there was a need for such expertise in the system?
Well, so I started my exploration in 1994. So in 1998, I established Focus, but 4 years before that, I was coming back just to see the need. So I will come and spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks, go to Kolebu, walk around, talk to doctors, see what they were doing. And I only came across a doctor, what's his name? Corsa. He was the one spine deformity surgeon. But you know, he has retired, but there was no other beside him.
Okay.
So the orthopedic surgeons were probably doing spine deformity surgery, but really not to the level of expertise even in those days.
Okay.
So I knew there was a big need.
Okay.
And that I could contribute. So we started with seminars and community education programs. When we did lectures at the British Council, the Trust Hospital, Kolebu Grand Rounds.
What were these lectures about? How to?
So these were basically to inform the public about spinal diseases in general, from low back pain to spine deformities, and also to get the professionals involved to contribute, so I know who is interested, in being part of this. So for the 4 years, I knew there was a need. I was able to then create a protocol for patient evaluation and care, and also surgical treatment.
Okay.
So we came back every 6 months to do surgeries at Kolebu.
Okay.
That's where I met Dr. Irene Wolf, who's the current chief of anesthesia here. She was then a resident. Dr. Harry Akoto, who's the neurosurgeon that was working with me today, he was a resident.
So your connections back.
Exactly. So I started coming back and working with them, with all the volunteers. I was able to at least get the local professionals interested and participate in the care. Dr. Oforiado, who was one of the first doctors that we worked with, an orthopedic surgeon. So they all helped. And we also did our most complicated cases at the cardiothoracic center, because they had the resources to support our patients. Because what we do is so involved that you need a multidisciplinary care plan to be able to come up with good results.
I know that. I mean, while you were coming to Ghana, you're also traveling across the world.
Oh yeah, I was all over the place, and I had about 500 volunteers coming over the years, including about 100 doctors. They came from maybe 12 countries. I had so as a consultant and professor of orthopedic surgery, you had to be a professor in the United States in an academic rank. You had to have an international reputation, which requires that you have published extensively, you have traveled extensively, you have trained fellows. I have trained about 100 spine surgeons all over the world, excluding those who just will come and visit and get 1 or 2 weeks of training. But for formal clinical spine training, probably 100 surgeons all over the world. And some still come here. Next month, one of them is coming from Greece. A few months ago, and one came from New Zealand. So I travel all over the world. I taught. I also designed instrumentation for spine surgery. And I'm using instrumentation now that I designed that is used all over the world by other surgeons.
You patented it.
I have a patent.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a patent.
So finally you settled in Ghana. You established this really remarkable institution. Tell us more about it.
So the goal was to eventually establish an infrastructure that would be sustainable. We went to Kolebu, we did all the surgeries, but it really wasn't a home. We were, graciously, received very well, and we did all our surgeries there, but we didn't have a place for our patients for follow-up. We didn't have a place for medical record keeping. And I'm very interested in outcomes research. And to be able to do good outcomes research, you need a facility that will have good housing for medical records, and also for patients to come for follow-up. That wasn't the case. So we actually started in 2004 with the Watson House Clinic, which is at East Legon. So a patient of mine gave us $100,000. So we bought a house in East Legon.
A patient of yours in Ghana?
In the U.S. So we converted it into a clinic. So the Watson House Clinic is a place where our patients were able to come for clinical care and follow-up when they did the surgeries at Kolebu. But all along, I was raising funds to build this. And this was going to be something like $16 million, or $20 million. So I was able to raise funds. I talked to the government that I needed seed money so that I could go back to my benefactors and donors, because everywhere I went, they were asking, is the government helping?
I know.
So they had to do something, and President Kufuor was then the head of state. So we got $1.5 million that I was able to use as seed money to raise the remaining $15 million, all of which came from the United States and abroad.
So from donor agencies and individuals?
Individuals. A lot of them were my patients from New York.
So people who you have treated,
if you go around and you see the names on the buildings, they are basically all my patients from the United States that I have treated, who have bought into the vision and the mission of providing state-of-the-art quality care to Ghanaians, and they've contributed. I'd love to see Ghanaian names replacing these in the future.
So you brought all of these resources, came
and raised the money, and then in 2008 we broke ground. We acquired the land in 2008, broke ground the same year. By 2012 we were done, and we opened the facilities to the community and for patient care and surgical treatment in April 2012.
How many people have you treated? I mean, in this facility, and I know in your lifetime you might have touched so many lives, but how many people come in here? Are people aware of this facility?
I'm told, every time I come across someone and say, what is Focus, or where are you? I've been on TV, I've been on radio, we've published extensively, we have a website, but still people don't seem to know where we are. So I hope these programs will expand will spread the news, and expand the brand. But we have about 200 plus employees here.
Wow.
We see about 5,000 to 6,000 patients every year.
Okay.
And we
From
operate
across the sub-region?
Yes. And we do have we operate in about 300 to 400 patients every year who have complex orthopedic conditions, not simple stuff. Excuse me. We do joint replacement surgery, and the joint replacement surgery, that is replacing arthritic hips and knees. Very specialized treatment that is managed by Dr. Adjei, who is a fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon. He does our joints. I run the spine deformity program. We have Dr. Akoto and Dr. Yankee now, who are neurosurgeons, who are also learning the spine deformity surgical treatment protocols and principles. But they are neurosurgeons. So in Ghana, neurosurgeons are the ones who have done most of the spine work, not orthopedics. So we have a residency program here through the West Africa and the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. So occasionally we do get a resident who will rotate through, and hopefully we'll be able to identify orthopedic surgeons who are also interested in pursuing spine deformity and joint replacement surgery as a career.
So you're not only providing medical help for people who need it, you're also training a new generation of specialists to take over the field. So, I mean, it's a remarkable story. When you look back at your life, when you're a young boy, about 6 years old, hoping to be a doctor, going through the ranks, acquiring education, building a career, and helping to put this great institution in place, do you feel that you have fulfilled your mission in life?
Well, I am very fortunate, and I'm also grateful to the Lord Almighty that I've come this far. I've had a vision. I have a vision, and I've had a mission. I'm in the mission process now. But the vision really is still yet to be attained, and that is to make this a sustainable infrastructure and a program to build capacity so that there will be more Boachies when I'm not here. There'll be people doing the work and continuing with the healthcare program that we have started. So I'm pretty proud of our achievements. And when I say our, it's not just me. I mean, I've had a very supportive wife. We've been married for 42 years.
What's her name?
Hilda. We've been married for 42 years. We have 3 boys, Kwajo, Kwame, and Yao, who have all been very supportive because I've been away.
Any of them veered towards your area?
Oh no, they are all in healthcare.
Okay.
Yeah, Kwajo is the director of research in New York. Kwame is a surgical specialist, and Yao is an orthopedic surgeon himself.
He didn't give us one lawyer or an engineer.
As much as I was gone, they were watching me, and they were following up. Because when I was home, we had fun. Yeah. We would go on vacations, we would play ball, and so I've been very fortunate to have a very supportive family, and also by His grace, I've been quite healthy to continue with the work and not fall sick. And after I was sick at the age of 6, I didn't see a doctor till 40 years later. Wow. I had my regular checkups back. Knock on wood. I haven't been hospitalized, and I'm 65.
You've been awarded, rewarded, honored, I mean, I'm sure countless occasions. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission gave you the International Peace Award in the year 2012.
Correct.
Yes. Can you tell us about some of your most significant honors that you're probably very proud of? I'm sure you're proud of all of them.
My best award is my family, of course. But besides that, there have been several acknowledgements for the work that I have done. The first significant one actually came from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. It is a body of about 30,000 orthopedic surgeons in the United States and all over the world. And every year they pick one member to receive the humanitarian award. So that was a very prestigious award, and I was humbly selected to receive that award in 2004. Actually, I was the fourth person to receive that award since its establishment 4 years earlier. And then also the Hospital for Special Surgery, where I was professor of orthopedic surgery, Cornell University Medical School. They also select a member of the faculty to confer on them the not the humanitarian, but the Lifetime Achievement Award. So I received the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2013, but they thought I was retiring. Hell, no way, I haven't.
Wow.
So that was 2013. And then the Doctor of Science Award from my alma mater, Brooklyn College. That was a couple of years ago. And of course, the Ahmadiyya Peace Award was given to me in London. So these are really my prize awards.
We're coming to the end of the interview, rather unfortunately, but I mean, we can have such a specialist like yourself without asking you, for those of us who are normal, just walking, what are some of the few things you just give us to us to be very particular about taking good care of our health in terms of our bones, our spines? Is there any tidbits, just one or two, that at least we can also learn from your knowledge before we let you go?
Well, you know, it's very important to have physical health, but you also need spiritual health.
Yes.
And you know, I tell my children, and of course my family all the time, that I have 3 F's. It's faith, family, and then friends, focus, and fun. So you got to combine all of that. And you need to stay well. And I keep telling people, I've never had malaria. I say, you're joking. I say, no, I haven't. I don't know if the mosquitoes either don't hit me or my blood is not tasty. You know, but I presume it's luck. But it's also because that I make sure I dress well, cover myself, and I eat well and eat right, exercise. I don't go for jogging or running, but I do my walks, which is plenty, do my push-ups, my sit-ups, and make sure I take my medication. I have high blood pressure, not significant, but take a small dose of medication. And you know, you keep your faith and you meditate, and you don't let things bother you. People are driven by tension and stress, and that can really, really even cause your immune system to reduce and fall sick. Try to stay calm. I mean, you cannot solve every problem. You have to put your thinking cap together. Like this morning, I was troubleshooting on how to get a piece of equipment from the United States that we're having difficulty acquiring. But you know, you might get down from time to time, but you got to get up and move on. It's not the end of the road. So motivation, inspiration, commitment, and always recognize that, you know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and the light is green. One thing you cannot do is waste time, because you cannot buy time. Once it passes, it's gone. So you have to take opportunity of every moment that you have. Manage your time well so that you can be fruitful.
You've just answered all the questions I had left. I wasn't to find about the role of faith in whatever you do and your advice to us. And I think that on behalf of MTA, we're very privileged to have had you. It's a very inspiring story.
We also have very good partners who have supported us, and I'll just tell you a few of them. We've seen Ethiopian children around. We work with the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee. They support at least 60 to 100 Ethiopians every year at a tune of about $15,000 apiece. We have African Surgery Incorporated, sponsored by this organization, which is in the US, and they support Sierra Leonean patients. And then we have Seeds of Hope that supports Zambian children. Upright Africa supports Congolese children. And then Stand Tall International, Tanzanians. So those are international organizations that are sponsoring patients to come here to have medical care. And but locally in Ghana, we have had sporadic support. You know, some have been the multimedia group of companies. Recently on Joy News and Joy TV, Jack and Jill School, Vodafone has supported one patient. Compassion International supported one. TV Africa, TV3 actually supported the patient. and then the Right to Free, and then Street Children's Empowerment Foundation. So, I mean, these are sporadic, but right now I have on deck about 20 children, Ghanaians, who really need spine surgery that we can find sponsors for. And their parents are not in the position to be able to come up with, say, $15,000. So I raise funds from the outside, but it's not enough. So we have a children's fund, which we would love listeners to really look into and contribute. And by calling our hospital, you can get access or information on how to contribute, or go on our website. There's a donate button that you can hit, and they will direct you to how to contribute. So we'll really appreciate getting additional support, because it's very expensive to run this outfit.
Prof, thank you very much, and I'm sure the Almighty Allah is going to bless your effort and sustain this institution, so others will receive the blessings from it. Prof,
thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
So, well, I guess you've all been inspired by this very important interview. One man who has given a lot to this country and indeed to humanity. Thank you very much for joining us on another inspiring edition of Inspirational Africans. Watch out for our next episode.